Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of First Impression Sports Talk. I'm your host, Jasmine Pollock, and we're going to get into a lot of things from the no foul call against LeBron and the NFC and AFC recap game. So let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Welcome back to Jazz's First Impression Sports Talk. And to kick the day off, we're going to talk about the AFC and NFC Championship game. So let's bring in Jeremiah. So let's start with the AFC. We're going to go from back to the previous game. So Chiefs pull it out. It's not Burrowhead anymore. It's, the Chiefs reclaim the throne. They're back in the finals or the championship game. And this is the third time that Mahomes is going to be in the Super Bowl. Now, that's a big deal, being that he still has a very young career and things like that. Joe Burrow in this offense, they came up short. They had a lot to do with the O-line. But, Jeremiah, what was your biggest takeaway of the Kansas City and Bengals game?
For me, Kansas City wanted the game more than Cincinnati. And in so many aspects, I was thinking that with Cincinnati coming back, that they would take control of certain parts of this game, and then they'll actually take the lead and maybe even win the game. They had many opportunities, especially down the road when it came to that fourth quarter, to take charge. When it came to the whole game, you had a 75% Mahomes, on a bad ankle. You had at least three of his receivers going out, and not to mention they don't have a Tyreek Hill. So I would figure, as you guys won with them being healthy last season, to coming back this season when you guys are playing in this playoff game, which is the AFC Championship, and then you really don't take advantage and win those games. Bro, you had those two picks, and those two picks, they were very costly when it came to the momentum shifting, because a lot of times you didn't have to force it. Now, I understand that Cincinnati, when it came to their protection, he didn't really have too much. He was down to, was it called like 3 backup guards that was on the O-line. So I can't really fault him for trying to get out of the pocket for every time. But it's in certain situations that you sometimes have to be trusting your run game. And also you have to make sure that you have some backups just in case of this happening.
Also, another issue that the Bengals had, they were talking a lot of smack the whole week. Burrowhead, the city mayor, Cincinnati's mayor, was talking a lot of trash towards the Chiefs, saying that Burrow is Mahomes' daddy and stuff like that. Yeah. And it was just bad from the jump. Now, I wanted the Bengals to win, but I was like, all that talking, you have to go in Arrowhead and still play the game. And being that they were talking so much, it didn't seem that they wanted the game as much as Kansas City wanted it. I'll say this. The biggest difference in the game was Joe Burrow turning the ball over and that O-line not giving him the protection that he needed. When we looked at it, the whole question, even from last year, can the Bengals protect Joe Burrow? He is one of the best young quarterbacks right now in the league, and he has done a tremendous good job of getting back to this moment and being able to compete against the Chiefs, because he's 3-0 against, now 3-1 against Mahomes. Yeah. So the biggest question is, can they go back and can they give him protection? And the answer was no. It seemed like the D-line for the Kansas City Chiefs wanted more. From the jump of the game, they were getting pressure. They were making sure that they were making Joe Burrow very uncomfortable. Whereas on the other side, I thought the Bengals defense played good enough to keep them in the game, and I thought the game was pretty much evenly matched. It just seemed like Mahomes and the Chiefs wanted it more. Now, the big question for the Bengals, they need, obviously, an O-line, but I feel like they also need that good slot receiver. Now, I know Boyd he got injured, but I think they need that other slot receiver that they can utilize and do different things like that. But Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, those are some dynamic receivers. And Jamar Chase is a beast. What he did yesterday in double, triple coverage, catching footballs and everywhere, he did his job. But the Bengals need to get an O-line to protect Joe Burrow. That's why he got injured his first year, because there was no protection. So now you need to make sure, being that he had that very nasty knee injury, to get him some protection and get him some looks where they can get the running backs running flares and they can throw it down the field. For the Chiefs, congratulations. This is a big deal for Mahomes, his legacy and different things like that. There's this comparison of him and Brady and different things like that. Now, you can't compare anybody to Brady because you have to win 7 rings and go to 10 Super Bowls. And Mahomes is a phenomenal quarterback. He is still he's leading the charge when it comes to the young quarterbacks. But him being the next Brady, I need us to take a little step back on that. What do you think about that, Jeremiah?
Yeah, I'm not gonna put him as no type of pedestal when it comes to a Brady, only because you have to also look into consideration when he has went to these big games, who are his other assets when it comes to buy him. Now, when it comes to Mahomes, he is a very excellent quarterback, especially when he comes in out of the pocket and making crazy throws and everything. But still, at the same time, he just doesn't have that poise to me sometimes when it comes to certain times of decision making. Because I know when it comes to certain calls in this last game, it was a lot of, I would say it was a lot of risky throws that he did and also risky things, but I do commend him for being out there, especially with his injury. But when it comes to Brady, he's just on a different level, just when it comes to seeing certain defenses and just picking it apart without even having to be so athletic as he is.
And not to mention Brady's longevity. It's very hard, especially in the league and football. There's a lot of injuries. It's an injury-prone league, so it comes with the territory, getting injured. For Brady to consistently have been playing for this long, you go to 10 Super Bowls, you win 7 of them. I mean, guys, easily this man could have 10 Super Bowl rings, which is insane. And he has every record in the book. He is the GOAT. Now, we look at Mahomes. For starting out, he's doing very well. This is his 3rd Super Bowl appearance. He's been to 5 AFC Championship games, so it's a big deal. However, you have to go to 10. The standard is 10 because Brady set that standard so high. So I mean, he's already at his 3rd. You got to go 7 more. So you have to make sure everything has to fall into place. And I don't think, especially how the AFC looks, is anybody's league. And
you have to win. Jazz, you have to win.
You have to win.
Because last time he played Brady in the Super Bowl,
it didn't go
got blown out. You can't afford to get blown out against the Eagles.
No,
because you can make it there, but you also have to be winning. A lot of great quarterbacks have went to the Super Bowl, but a lot of them sometimes don't be winning. Get there, not winning.
Exactly. So let's get into those Eagles. So let's go to the NFC Championship game. Now, this game I thought was going to be more competitive. I mean, what happened? The score ended up being 31-7. I mean, the 49ers won their 4th string quarterback. I mean, Jeremiah, that whole game, what happened? What happened?
Well, at the beginning, you would think that it was going to be a really good game because of how San Francisco, they came out. And, of course, the Eagles on their first drive marched all the way down their field, and they scored. Now, you had the defense. They were holding up at a certain point, but the wheels fell off when Purley went out of the game. When it comes to your quarterback, that is a driving force of your whole offense. If you don't really have your engine, how are you even going to maneuver your car? How are you even going to start it? So that's how a lot of those offensive players felt, because Debo, he can't pass himself the ball. McCaffrey, he can't pass himself the ball. A lot of them can't do a lot of different things without their different quarterback in. They had a backup that was in their 4th string. And at one point, it was about to be the fullback was about to be the quarterback.
Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk was going to be their emergency QB, their fullback.
Yes, and that is so crazy to me because they was even looking at McCaffrey. He was like, "You want the quarterback?"
QB, right.
And right then and there, that is very scary, especially for an NFC Championship game. And right then and there, I just knew it was this whole dysfunction. All the wheels fell off, and Shanahan couldn't really do nothing. His hands were tied, and the Eagles took straight advantage of it. And I gotta commend them because Jalen Hurts, he didn't even pass for 1 touchdown. And they still dominated the game.
Scary. I mean, and I'm glad you mentioned that because their rushing attack was the Eagles. are the number one rushing team in the league. They've been that for the past 2 years now. And they just ran the ball. And they scored 4 touchdowns running the ball, including Jalen Hurts running it in for a touchdown as well. So today during my class, I had some people, we were talking about the games, and they were saying, oh, the Eagles had the easiest road to the playoff or the easiest road to the Super Bowl. And I said, really? Because I'm like, the Giants go on the road to beat a good Vikings team that everyone thought was going to be a good Vikings team, and they end up going to the Eagles, and they played the Eagles pretty well in the regular season. They get blown out. The 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys was a good team, right? Brock Purdy was a 7-0 quarterback. They had the number 1 ranked defense. So I want to know to people, how was it easy for the Eagles?
Even if it was easy, even if it was them getting those teams and you guys didn't think that they were good, I mean, are you blaming them for getting that? I mean, they're the number 1 seed. They had the bye week for a reason. They got put into those places because of them winning. You can't hate them because they're so good and then the bad teams just got stuck with them.
Are you going to say the same thing for the Chiefs because Joe Burrow didn't have all his O-line? Are we going to say that was easy for the Chiefs? I just don't understand. It's like they're saying, oh, the Eagles are not deserving of this. Well, whoever's on their schedule, they had the best record in the whole NFL. Is it their fault the other teams didn't perform well? Exactly. It's not their fault.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the Eagles have every right to be there. They've been the best team all season. So I need people to stop that, because at the same time, you guys were not saying that when Brock Purdy was 7-0. You weren't saying that when they won 7 straight games. You didn't say that, oh, man, the 49ers. Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy, but Brock Purdy beat him. And it's not like Brock Purdy didn't play in the game. He got dinged in his elbow because the defense got pressure on him and forced him to fumble the ball, and he got injured off of that. They had plenty of chances.
He did.
49ers had plenty of chances.
Right. He had plenty of chances. And he, when it came to him, those lights was kind of too bright. And I know he did not want to come back inside of that game, especially being injured. And that's why it's important for the 49ers. Find yourself a quarterback this offseason, one that can stay healthy. Because you're in almost the same boat as Miami right now. Find a quarterback that's gonna keep you healthy, because everything else is working around you. All you need is that driving force, which is a quarterback.
And then also, if the Eagles had it easy, the 49ers had the number 1 ranked defense. How many points did the Eagles drop on them?
Exactly.
31. You still have to play defense regardless on who's on the other side. I mean, I don't want to hear anything about that. So I was rooting for the Eagles. Obviously, I wanted the Eagles to win. I was expecting a better game than that. I was not expecting a blowout. But if we look at how the 49ers offense is constructed, a lot of the times they don't do down the field stuff. They do a lot of laterals, a lot of motion with their running backs and receivers, and Debo and Kittle, and now adding Christian McCaffrey. They do a lot of different things. They do a lot of flare routes. They do a lot of different things. They're not a deep passing team. They do long, methodical run play drives. So I don't understand. They had plenty of chances to try to get back in the game. And there was a point in the time where the game was tied 7-7. So it's not a joke. It's not a joke what the Eagles just did. They just erupted and they went to work. Now let's talk about the Super Bowl. So let's look at the slides of the Super Bowl preview between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles in Arizona. So this is the moment. This is where we're going to find out who is the king of the NFL. Now let's look at the storylines a little bit. So Andy Reid, who happens to be the Chiefs coach, he used to coach for the Eagles. This is his former team. So he's facing his former team maybe to get revenge on his old team. The Eagles, this is their second time in the past 5 years going back to the Super Bowl, because they went in 2018 and beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. So, and this is the first time that 2 black quarterbacks will be facing each other in the Super Bowl, which is very huge. That's historic. So this whole matchup is going to be very awesome. Another thing, this is one more. There are 2 brothers from each team facing each other. So Travis Kelce, who is the star tight end for the Chiefs, is facing his brother, who is the O-line, the center for the Philadelphia Eagles. So the 2 brothers are going to face each other. Their households are going to be erupting and really excited about that. But Jeremiah, Chiefs, Eagles, what's your prediction and why?
I said to myself yesterday, I was like, this is going to be a coin toss, but at the same time, I have it Eagles winning by 10, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it's going to be a blowout like a lot
No.
of different people because of Mahomes being injured right now. Mind you, both of these teams have 2 weeks off to prepare for this Super Bowl. When
Yes.
it came to this last game that Hurts had played, his his whole I knew it. I knew it just from the start, and I noticed it when I was watching a lot of the replays again. His shoulder wasn't all the way 100% when it came to that game against the 49ers. Because when it came to those throws that he made to A.J. Brown, a lot of them was a little bit overthrown, or those are ones that he usually cash in when it came to those points. And I saw when he got tackled and kind of right afterwards. So having those 2 weeks of rest is going to just empower like him in a different way. And I'll say the same thing from Mahomes. He didn't shoot up the leg. He's landed healed naturally when it comes to everything. It's those 2 weeks plus getting your other receivers back from their injuries. Hopefully it's nothing, that's going
Hopefully.
forward
Right.
because you want to have a healthy Super Bowl. And I just think for Jalen, he's gonna have himself an MVP Super Bowl. The reason
Ooh.
I say is because he's going to come very healthy and he's got something to prove. And for Mahomes, I know for him, he has also got something to prove because of how he got blowed out against the Bucks when they
A
played that
couple years ago.
championship game.
Hmm.
Yes.
Right.
So right now they're kind of living on the high, but I just think that all the weapons that Jalen Hurts and also the whole Eagles style just have, I just think that it's just going to be too much just for alleged like Andy Reid and just plus Kelsey and all of them because I do think the Chiefs they are going to miss Tyreek Hill.
Yes, they miss him now. They miss him right now because if you look at it, the Bengals were able to withstand the Chiefs' offense. They were able to hold the Chiefs pretty much the whole game. They were able to hold them. The Eagles' defense is 10 times better than the Bengals' defense. So, I mean, when we look at this, and not to mention, do you know who plays D-line on the Eagles? Ndamukong Suh. Who did he play for a couple years ago?
The Bucks.
The Buccaneers. And they played who in the Super Bowl? The Chiefs. Which quarterback? Mahomes. So those guys are going to be ready and they're going to know exactly what to do to contain him. And then he's still going to be gimpy. This is not an injury that's just going to go overnight. He has a sprained ankle. So if he comes out and he's gimpy and the Eagles defense is fast and they're physical. When I look at this, Tyreek Hill is going to be very missed because he's somebody that can take the top off the defense due to his speed and him doing different routes in the slot and on the outside. When we look at the Chiefs' defense, let's look at the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs. Now, they put a lot of pressure on Burrow yesterday, barring because Burrow's O-line was depleted. Eagles have the number one offensive line in the league. So you're not going to be able to get to Jalen Hurts a lot. They're going to run the ball a lot. And then you have to account for his arm. So you have two dynamic receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, on the opposite sides of each other. So they said, okay, we're going to double team Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown's on the other side. Who's going to guard him? Oh, we're gonna double team him. You got Devontae. Now let's say, let's going to put our best corners on both of them. You have Goddard. You have a lot of guys that can catch the ball. You have a lot of guys that can go down there. And then you have to account for Jalen Hurts' legs. So you might think, I'm passing it off to the running back. He's running it this way. He's just a dynamic threat. He can throw, he can pass the ball, and he can run the ball, and he will not turn the ball over. He does not turn the ball over, and he's very durable. When we look at the defensive side for the Eagles defense is going to be able to cause pressure on Mahomes. Now, I'm not saying this game is going to be a blowout. I have the Eagles too, but I have the Eagles I have Eagles by 4. I think it's going to be a lot closer. I see people saying, it's a blowout. Don't say that because we're not going to say that. We're going to say it's going to be a very competitive game because these are two very good teams, two very good young quarterbacks facing each other. But I feel like on paper, top to bottom, the Eagles have the best team right now. But Mahomes, I get what's going in his head. This is my legacy. People are comparing me to Michael Jordan and Tom Brady. I don't understand why, but they're comparing him to them. Jalen Hurts is a winner. We forget this man has won a championship with Alabama before. He played at the University of Alabama, one of the best college football programs in the nation. And he goes to Oklahoma, and he does very well at Oklahoma. And when we look at this, Jalen Hurts has the winning DNA. He knows what it feels like to win and be in these big moments. It's just the brighter lights now because you're in the NFL and it's a lot more magnified. But I have the Eagles winning this game. I have the Eagles being very physical. And for people saying they had the easier route, let's not forget the 49ers have the number 1 ranked defense, and they dropped 31 on them yesterday. You mean to tell me that the Chiefs defense is better than that 49ers defense? Absolutely not. So I think the Eagles have what it takes to win. It seems like they have had the magic all year. For the Chiefs, there's a lot of questions that I have. I have not seen a weakness in the Eagles yet the whole season. The Chiefs, there's some questions. I have some questions about the Chiefs, but for sure, the Eagles will win this game. I believe it. And not to mention, too, the Chiefs, and I told Remy this as well. I told my dad, I told you, and I told Remy, if the Chiefs do not score 30 points, because they haven't scored 30 points in a while, if they do not score 30 points in this game, they're not going to win. They have to score 30 points. I'm calling that now. So that wraps up the first segment. We're going to go talk about the non-call against LeBron and what the NBA is doing with their officiating after this short break.
I'm Leon Thomas with the Leon Thomas Group. Podcast, virtual events, webinars, streaming shows, and so much more. We want to be your partner in all things virtual.
Welcome back to Jazz's First Impression Sports Talk. And the voice you just heard was from Leon Thomas. If you would like virtual work done with you and you would like to be our partner, you can go to the leonthomasgroup.com and get in contact with him. And the second segment of the day, the NBA, the good old National Basketball Association, with their officiating yet again. So let's just show the picture for everybody that happened. Let's talk about this. So from first glance, you know it's a foul. We know this. You can clearly see Tatum is altering LeBron from scoring this basketball, right? This is a big game because this is one of the biggest rivalries in history. The Lakers and Celtics is always a big game, physical game, because it's a rivalry. They're the two highest teams with the most championship wins. So this is a big game. Lakers are trying to get back on the right footing. They're trying to get back on the track to stay on track in the West. The Boston Celtics are in the top, and they're trying to repeat to go back to the finals. But Jeremiah, the officiating continues to be an issue in the NBA. In the NFL too, but we're talking about the NBA. It's still an issue. Refs are calling technicals out of nowhere. They're ejecting star players. Curry got ejected the other night. Just a lot of things going on. Non-calls, calls that should be called, that they're not calling, calls that they do call that aren't fouls. What is going on in the NBA, and how do we fix this?
I think when it comes to officiating, it's just getting really out of hand. I feel like when it comes to the NBA itself, they need to have a certain meeting or a certain wrap up when it comes to these refs, because it either has to be some penalties that go on with these missed calls or personal issues that go on, because this as part of this, it can't really go forward, because not to mention you're losing viewership with so many of these things happening.
Right.
Just like when it came to this play with LeBron going up for the layup and then Tatum hitting him on the arm. What is the point of official review if you're not even going to review in those moments that are needed? Because you have it to where these coaches can say, but at the same time, how come New York is not calling to just be like, listen, I want to review that when people are watching these certain things, to where you get a call up and you have to review these? Because when it comes to the Lakers, I understand their frustration, especially even LeBron's, because through this whole month span, this team could have been at least in the 6th place in the whole Western Conference Finals. But because of certain calls like these that happened in 4 straight games for them, especially when it comes to regulation,
Yes.
Those things get frustrating and they lose the games like these. And when it comes to this going forward, especially inside this league, there has to be some consequences, not just these refs just putting out a statement, oh, I just got this wrong. Yeah, I got this wrong, or I just overlooked it. How is that gonna make me feel? I'm a player that's working hard, playing 48 minutes out there for you guys not to even call something that you guys are getting paid for at the end of the day.
Right.
And right now for the NBA, you got these players getting kicked out. I don't agree when it comes to those situations, because even with Curry throwing his mouthpiece, he wasn't throwing it in a way that it was a gesture to the ref. It wasn't in a way that he was going towards the fans. He threw it at his own bench. And I feel like when it comes to these refs right now, we're giving too much power to make those certain calls, and this takes away from the whole love of the NBA. And now people don't even want to watch the NBA.
And on top of that, with the NBA too, is the league is so me now. It's like now you have so many guys who are making tons of money. I mean, LeBron is a billionaire playing basketball. You have so many of these guys having these huge contracts, and they have to protect the investment. They're protecting when this is the product. This is the number one player. We can't have this. This kind of thing. But I don't understand, especially in the NBA, when we look at all these basketball arenas, it's easier to do instant replay because it's so compacted. It's small. It's a small space. Whereas compared to football, it's a big stadium. There's a field. There's a lot going on. So it's a lot harder to get, instant replay. In the NBA, you should be able to do that quickly. That should be something that, we can do that right on the spot. And now I get they don't want to get to a point where, okay, we have to constantly keep replaying this and I get that. But you have to really understand that these guys are getting paid to play a sport. They're getting paid to win games. Whichever team you play for, you want to win games, you want to compete. And when you don't call or you call plays or fouls like that alters emotion. That alters a lot of things that are going on with people. And it makes people question, okay, what is the point of this anyway? But this is why I feel like with the NBA, it's becoming so controversial. It's becoming so finesse now. Whereas back then, it was rough. Like, I remember we grew up in a good time in the early 2000s where we saw Kobe, we saw Tim Duncan, we saw those physical guys playing basketball. Now it's finesse. I'm not saying it isn't a bad thing because, it's moving in a different direction and it's keeping players safer and healthy, I guess. But it's unfortunate because the younger generation doesn't know the physicality of the game. Like back then, we saw the physicalness. Even our parents, they saw that in the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, the 60s.
Yeah, you can trash talk if you want to. They don't really care, and the rest would let them have that competitive action.
You can't even trash talk without getting a check.
You can't.
I mean, what's the point? That's what sports is. Now, you have to be respectful. You have to respect one another. But all these texts, it's like, okay. And then if you look at it, everything is high scoring. Can we really play defense in the league of the NBA right now? Can you really play defense? Because if you look at it, every game is over 110 points. Literally, they're scoring 100. You see the 130-point games, 120-point games. It's like where you look at NCAA basketball, it's like 93-86. Or 73-69, something like that. It's the short defensive physical thing about it. Whereas the NBA, very high scoring, very minimal defense. And then you have all these technical fouls and these non-foul calls. And it gets frustrating as a fan because I can't sit there and watch that all day. I'm just like, okay, let's just stop. But It's not just the NBA that has the problem. It's the NFL that has the problem as well.
Officiating as a whole.
Yes. Mm-hmm. These leagues are very big leagues. They're the top two leagues right now in the country. When you mess up the dynamic of the game, when it's so much of the officiating, you take the love away from the sport. You distract the game. I want to see the players play. I'm the person that would say let them play. Now I'm not talking about being dirty and just doing blatant stuff, but let them play. Let them trash talk. I mean, There's nothing wrong with that. We trash talk in sports. I've talked trash on the field before. So it's like it's part of the game. It's part of being an athlete. It's part of the fans going back and forth. That's the
Yes.
whole aspect of it. When you start, okay, you're getting kicked out because you said something or you accidentally bumped the ref. I mean, seriously. Seriously.
Right then and there, it's so petty. Petty after this, petty after that, because it could even be a coach just screaming or something. You have to, sometimes for refs, you just have to let that go. Listen, you're there to officiate the game. Nothing is going to pop off right now. Or even if players are pushing each other, let them push. They're not throwing any fists or anything. Now you just talking to them, just like, listen, we're here to just play some ball and just keep it within ball and stuff. Now, refereeing, you ain't know back then how the trash talking was. That trash talking hit to heart. You know, you have players that wanted to just like fight right after. And right now, you just got so much of, you know, too much policing. And I don't know what the NBA is right now. I don't know what the NFL is right now, where nobody can do anything.
Right. And it's, especially NBA, they're moving in a weird direction for me, because it's like, what are we gauging players off of now? You know, now it's, you know, very high scoring, very minimal defense, where I grew up in a time, and even our parents grew up in a time where it was physical, gifted basketball on both sides. Nowadays, there's no real rivalry in the NBA anymore. You don't see that real rivalry where the Celtics and Lakers, it was physical. The Bulls and the Pistons, even the Miami Heat and the Pacers at the time when LeBron was down there, that was a physical LeBron versus the Spurs, and that was a physical time. Now it's everyone's friends and everyone's, you know, we have a business deal. Back then, them guys, I don't like you. Even
it's no thing of, I'm gonna get my get back next game that we play.
Right.
Like, I don't want to talk to you. I want
it's funny. See you. Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan still don't like each other to this day. To this day, they don't like each other. Listen, I'm not sitting down with him. Oh, I know a lot of guys who are better than him. Now, Isaiah Thomas is delusional sometimes, but it's like, what are you talking about? You know, it's like, oh, you know, he never wanted to play this. No, Jordan is the GOAT. Jordan's the man. But it's like, they still to this day don't like each other. I don't want to sit in the same realm as that man. I don't want to talk about that man. And now these guys are like kumbaya best friends. It's not physical anymore. And I want to see that, because I want to see guys go back and forth. I want to see your best player versus their best player going back and forth.
But these players are comfortable. These players are too comfortable right now. They got the money. They have the
huge contracts. Huge contracts.
That's what I'm saying. Huge contracts. Some of them don't even really care if they really go to the championship, because there's not really any drive or anything like that. But I hope that the NBA does fix this when it comes to officiating, because you're gonna need to fix this before it gets to playoffs.
Exactly. Now I propose what they should do: officiating for the NFL and the NBA. Even hockey, it has its moments too, but I think hockey's very even killed. But what they should do every maybe 2 or 3 years, they should evaluate each ref. They should do an evaluation period of, okay, these are the missed calls you had compared to the calls you did make. If you have more missed calls at this point in time, then okay, maybe you shouldn't be a ref anymore. That kind of thing, because the game is too big. And the refs do get paid very handsomely. They get paid very handsomely. So, I mean, hey, every 5-10 years, we refresh new refs or something like that and bring in new people. Or you fix the instant replay and you say, no, we're going to pause the game to get this right so everybody can see both sides and everybody's okay. You talk to the coaches, you talk to the officials with each other, and you have a conversation. You look at the replay together and say, this is what this is. We're going to call this, or this is not what we said it was. Let's reverse the call. Now, it has to be fair, though. But we'll see. I don't know if they're going to fix it, because I guess they like the banter. I think they like that people are talking about this. It keeps people riled up. It's the whole business sport. This is the whole business of sports. That's just what they do. They're trying to bring in more people, trying to get more people talking about it. So, of course, they're going to keep, doing certain things like this. But that wraps up First Impression Sports Talk. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you, Oren. Thank you, Remy. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And make sure to check out First Impression Sports Talk every Monday at 3:30. You guys can see it below. And make sure to tune into some of these games, because Super Bowl is coming up, basketball, hockey, let's go. So we're really excited. And then not to mention March Madness is coming up. So I'm really excited about that. See you guys next week for more sports talk. Have a good one.